Okay. It's Seth Speaks with your friend Seth Rudetsky. Get ready for some sizzling, sassy banter. It's Brian Gari, the grandson of Eddie Cantor. Glad banter onto the Cantor.
Did you copyright that?
Yeah,
okay,
TM. So I feel like I either had you on my radio show or I had you on Chatterbox, but I know I had Brian on before talking about his show Late Night Comic, and he wrote this amazing book, which I totally loved, called We Bombed in New Haven, which is... New London, sorry. I love backstage stories, and it's a great story about Late Night Comic and bringing it to Broadway and what went wrong, what went right. It's just a great, great book. And what's really cool is that you are the grandson of Broadway royalty, Eddie Cantor. So when you were growing up with Eddie Cantor, did you know that he was a megastar, or was he just Grandpa?
I think he was just Grandpa. You know, the only time I really knew anything about his success was that during that time, of course, long before cable TV, they would run his movies at about the late show, 2 or 3 in the morning, and my mother would actually wake me and my sister up and say, "Grandpa is on TV," and we'd be like that, and you know, but we'd see his movies. That's the only time you would see him, on the CBS late night TV, and that would be Whoopi and Kid from Spain, Kid Millions.
And he has so many what were his famous songs? I feel like I know all of them. Like, what were they? Yeah.
Making Whoopi, If You Knew Susie.
Like I knew Susie.
You know, there's one song that people fail to recognize he introduced. There are a couple that he introduced that not many people know about, but My Baby Just Cares for Me, which is really a jazz standard.
Yeah, it's a great song.
That was the first, he did the first version of that.
So he didn't write these, he just
No, he didn't write that, but he did write something that everyone would know.
I think I know what you're talking about, James. I hope you have it on tape, or I go.
Oh, really? Oh,
yes.
I brought it with me in case. But yeah, the interesting thing is that everybody knows this song, from little children to
people my age.
Okay, or over 90. Oh. Everybody knows this song, but they don't know who had a hand in writing it. But if I hum it to you, you're going to know.
James hit it. Happy Saturday. First of all, I'm obsessed with that song. Second of all, why did he didn't write it for Bugs Bunny? He just wrote it?
He wrote it along with Murray Mencher, who...
another Jew.
Now, Murray Mencher had another name.
What?
In later
More
years.
Jewish? Not possible.
He was known as Murray Mencher in the 30s when he wrote that song. With the lyric was also... this song was a three-way collaboration. Lyric probably a lot by Charlie Tobias, who wrote Don't Sit Under the Apple Tree, and a lot of other, you know, standards. And Comes Love.
He wrote that too?
Charlie Tobias. These are all like standards and everything. But in 1935, my grandfather had this idea for a song, and he decided to try to write a little kid song. Merrily we roll along, my baby and me. You know, that's what the lyric is. And he did it on his radio show, because my grandfather's radio show was #1 for years and years and years. Did it right here in New York.
Oh, wow.
And it was, you know, they say you could walk down an alley, and it was almost like, in those days, like stereo, because every house was tuned in to the Eddie Cantor show. And he did this song in 1935, and Warner Brothers approached him later on that year and said, "We'd like to put it into a cartoon." Who knew that it would last as long?
Oh my God! I grew up listening to it forever. It's so great and it's so wacky. So Brian Gari, so you're here because you wrote a musical about your grandfather.
Right. I've been working on this for close to 30 years. I had this musical that Seth mentioned on Broadway called Late Night Comic that lasted about 5 minutes. But I was very proud of it, and I was
great people in it. Robert Lupone.
That's right, yeah. And on the album,
Luba Mason,
Seth Rudetsky.
Oh yeah, they made an album like years later, and I got to recreate one of the songs.
That's right, and he helped me greatly on the vocal arrangements.
Oh,
but there are other people on that album, Liz Calloway.
Yes.
And anybody named Liz is on that album. You know that. Liz Larson. And,
yes, all the Broadway Liz's.
But Mary Testa,
Mary Liz Testa.
Mario Cantone.
Got it. And Jerry Stiller was at that Barnes & Noble event that we did,
but Jerry Stiller has says that he's in the business because of my grandfather, because he worshipped my grandfather. He says the only time my parents weren't fighting was when they were listening to Eddie Cantor. And by the way, I should mention, he also introduced a Christmas favorite, Santa Claus is Coming to Town.
Yes.
And never recorded it, but he introduced it. And the only reason he introduced it is because my grandmother said, that song is a very good song. The kiddies are going to love that. He says, I don't think I want to do it. I'm telling you, that's a good song. And it's lasted all these years, and nobody really remembers. But the sheet music shows my grandfather on the cover.
Wow.
You know? And he also introduced Try a Little Tenderness. And never recorded it, but introduced it. And, we know, in my era, it was like Otis Redding's version.
Yeah.
It was gigantic.
So he introduced it on his radio show.
Yeah, he would do these songs because people were desperate to get their songs done. And, in those days, getting your song done on the radio, you reached millions of people, and what would happen is it could sell millions of copies of sheet music. So sheet music was important. It was on everybody's little piano in their house.
Everyone played the piano in those days before, sports took over for, music training.
That's right. So getting back to this, the show that I've been working on is, I was working on 2 shows at one time. I was working on Late Night Comic, and I was working on this Eddie Cantor musical. And what happened was we just managed to get a director who had some credits, and Late Night Comic developed quicker than my Eddie Cantor show. But when you have a show that collapses on Broadway, it does not exactly make people call you the next day with, could you give us another one? So this Eddie Cantor musical has been sitting, and I've been adding songs to it as the years go by, and nobody's asked me to do it, but I just decided, let me keep writing these songs based on his autobiographies, which were 2. There were 2 autobiographies. So I just keep writing songs for it. And finally, I did a show at the Metropolitan Room with a guy named Tom Luca. He was one of the singers on my show. And I decided to give him one of the songs from this musical. And it went over so well that I thought, why don't I just take all the demos that I've been doing over the years, whether they're just at the piano or they're full orchestrations, put them all on one CD and call it the Unproduced Eddie Cantor Musical.
Wow, it's so literal. I love it.
That is literally what it is.
And that's a CD. I read a great review about it, and I can't remember. I was just reading it online. I can't remember where I read it, but a really, really great review.
Rob Lester, Talking Broadway. Probably,
yeah,
right?
Really, really good. So where can we get the actual CD that you have?
You can get it directly from Amazon. It's actually, that's the only place, unless you go to briangary.com, which switches you over to Amazon. But
it's called the Unproduced Eddie Cantor Musical. So if this song, I know you're going to sing this song for us here, but is this like a song you introduced it, a song that advances the plot? Like, what is the song you're about to perform?
This is a song, my grandfather dated my grandmother from, I think, the age of 14 years old. They both grew up on Henry Street here in New York City, the Lower East Side.
Funny
and they got along great, and he used to name her and call her the Belle of Henry Street. And I thought, what a perfect, song title. Why don't I try and write something from his point of view, from Eddie's point of view when he was 14 or 15 years old. And that was one of the earliest songs I wrote for the musical.
All right, so this is Brian Gary singing live, but you can get this recorded version at Amazon, the Unproduced Eddie Cantor Musical.
Okay.
Well,
I will come over there and hopefully remember all the words to the song.
And we're not live, so who gives a shit?
Oh, okay. and all the chords. Do they bleep you too?
That was recorded.
Anyway, this is it. Halfway up the street, the better part, I lost my heart, and it likes where it fell. I had no idea what she could see in one like me, but still she would quell. And I'll sing from every lamp that she likes this little outrun you, and just to get a laugh, I'll do it all. I'll take the fall for only a grin. Hanging off her scoop to get a crowd, I'll make her proud, and that's when I win. And it's not an easy race when you're stuck with this here face. She's the belle of Henry Street, Mademoiselle.